teching, specifically front of house and monitor teching. We've got an amazing panel of experts. If you guys have read their bios, they have done everything for everyone. There's plenty of expertise to go around. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So if you guys have any questions, just stick them in the chat, or on Facebook you can comment and they'll get relayed to us. We have some great questions from people who've registered already, so we've got lots to talk about today. Just a little thing of I live and work in the UK, so if anything I say sounds a bit weird, just flag it up in the chat because it's probably just a language barrier. Don't worry about it, and I'll translate. Yeah, so I'm gonna give people just a couple more minutes to kind of catch up and get involved because it's I don't want anyone to miss out any of the expertise. If you wanna hop in the chat and say where you're from today, that would be interesting. See how many different time zones we can get. Because I'm in the UK, we've got Americans here. We've got a Chicago. Anyone else? People being shy? Ooh, Pittsburgh. Okay. I think we're gonna have Egypt. Nice. This could be a fun game. And Toronto. Hey. California. Cool. So lots of people still connecting, so I'm not gonna move on with anything quite yet. You guys in nice sunny California. Lucky. It's a little bit warmer and more pleasant than Northern England in February. No one's turning their cameras on. Or can you turn your camera on? I don't know. I'll just pretend that you all have really nice smiling faces then. Okay. I think we can get started now. So, as I said, this is the teching episode for Ask the Experts from Sound Girls. We have 4 amazing experts, and I just want to start by saying, like, what teching is, because it is quite an important job, but a lot of people don't quite know what it involves, and that's what we're going to discuss today. So really what it is supporting and assisting the front of house and monitor engineers. You have monitor tech, front of house tech. System tech is a slightly different ballpark, so we're not really going to talk about that much today. Ball game even. But it's a really important job, and it's got a different skill set to a lot of other jobs. It's a lot of because you're that bridge between the audio company and the engineer, and you're supporting one person very closely. There's a lot of people skills involved, a lot of diplomacy involved, and it's if you can carve a niche out for yourself as a tech, that is a great career trajectory to get you out working and get a good reputation for yourself as someone who's very helpful and knowledgeable. So, yeah. So let's start off. I'm going to get everyone to introduce themselves, and then we're going to just dive into some of the questions that you guys have given us. So can we start with Kristen? Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
So I'm Kristen. I'm currently a system engineer, usually a crew chief when I work on touring systems. I work for 8th Day Sound, but I guess we're now a part of the Claire Global family, and I've been there for about 11 years now. I did not start in sound. I went to college to be a mechanical engineer. I worked in that industry for about 7 years, and I did not like it. So I decided, I don't want to do this with my life. And I decided to go back to a first love, being music, but I'm a highly technical person. So I knew I was not going to be a performer, but I knew I wanted to be behind the scenes, and audio was my first love.
Fantastic. Rachel?
Hi. My name is Rachel Bozer. I've been at Claire Global for the last 11 years. I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee. I went to school for audio engineering. Started out wanting to be more in the music business side of things. I thought I wanted to do studio work, but while I was in school, kind of got more into the live sound aspect of the industry, and started working at Claire while I was in school, working in the shop. Worked in the shop for about 3 years before I started touring, and kind of run the gamut of touring, on the road staff from PA tech to monitor tech, RF tech. I've been a monitor mixer on a couple of tours and have now currently a system engineer and crew chief.
Very cool. Trevor?
My turn. Cool. My name's Trevor. I guess my touring bit started with Eighth Day back in 2002. But before that, I worked in clubs and just fixed anything I could to keep things going in there. I toured for about 17 years, and recently in October 19, because I love teching so much, retired from touring and now work for Group One fixing Digicos.
Very nice. And finally, Ivan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ivan Ortiz. Mechanic by trade, born and raised in the island of Puerto Rico, and then came to Rat Sound in 2002. So I've been with Rat for 18, going to 19 years. Started at the bottom, coiling cables and running the shop, fixing things. And I've done everything from teching to become band engineer, to go back to Rat, be a shop manager, to you name it. And it's quite the joy, to be part of this industry. It hit us hard last year, and this year doesn't look that much better, but we're gonna come through. We're gonna pull through.
It's a great time to get learning. That's the upside of it, huh? Great. So, as I said before, these guys between them have done every role for everyone, loads of expertise. So we're going to just jump into the questions, and we're going to start with Scott's question, actually, which is just, what skill is most handy for teching? So if you guys can say between 1 and 3 skills, let's say, if you've got a few favorites. Again, start with Kristen.
It's because my last name is Dean, isn't it?
I'm putting you on the spot.
No, it's okay. A skill that I find handy is problem solving. You've got to know your signal flow so that, it's not a matter of if you're going to have a problem, it's a matter of when. And your engineer has to trust you to be able to help them solve it or solve it for them. So you've got to keep your problem solving skills strong. And a lot of that is practice. A lot of that is, if you're able to go in a shop, try things and, see what happens and then go from there. Another skill is you have to be a good communicator, especially if you're also the crew chief. You have a team of people working under you and you're getting information from, say, the production manager, and you have to find the best way to relate it to your team to get the goal accomplished.
Yeah, diplomacy is a big one, I think.
Yeah.
How about you, Rachel?
Yeah, I have to agree with everything Kristen just said. Troubleshooting is number one in my book. If you can't troubleshoot, you can be dead in the water. Their signal flow is everything in our job. Being able to go from, start to finish. If you're trying to, not start at the beginning of where a problem is, every time, you can get lost really easily. And being able to follow the path, every time, can make your job a lot easier. And you're trying to have that path of least resistance. And again, personality is everything in this. Being able to communicate and know how to effectively communicate with people in this job is very key. It's just as important as knowledge, and also being able to continue to educate yourself in this job, because the technology is always evolving. It's always changing, and if you don't keep up with it, it's really easy to feel like you're falling behind, especially if, you've been on the same console for so long that, there's a new update or there's something new that comes out and you may not have seen it yet. So being able to get that opportunity to check it out when you're in the shop next, that's really important as well.
Cool. And the same question for Trevor.
I think one of the best things I'd ever learned in military when I was an electronics technician is the term half splitting. In any kind of system, you have basically a signal source, microphone, and an end source, which is a speaker. And if it's not working, first thing you want to do is half split. So you're troubleshooting where the right part is. Cuts down on time. So a lot of that is you've got to have the confidence to come in and say, okay, if it's not getting to the console, then I know it's from the console back to the stage. If it is getting to the console and not to the speaker, you know which way to go. And when you portray that kind of ability to look at a system from that kind of perspective, your engineer's going to get confidence in you, and that's something that's really big. Confidence for everybody around you that you're the right person to be there.
Definitely. And I think it's one of the most tricky things to master is the confidence when you're starting out, I guess, with, fair enough, because you don't know what you're doing. Come on. Okay. Ivan, what do you think is most important for techs?
All right, so I'll agree 110% with what Kristen and Rachel and Trevor just said. My personal thing I will say is, in moments of crisis when you're teching, you got to stay calm. That's number one. That's key, because people are they're in semi-panic mode and they're looking at you for a solution. So if you panic, it's just going to turn into a tornado. So you got to stay calm. You got to rely on your troubleshooting skills that okay, so like Trevor said, it's getting to the console. Okay, so if it's getting to the console, we're going this way. If it's not getting to the console, we're going that way. You got to be able to communicate and be accurate on your time frame. Says, hey, give me 15 minutes. If you're asking for 15 minutes, you make those 15 minutes count. You got to have a plan beforehand. It's like, don't yell. There's no need to yell. You're going to stay nice and calm. You're going to say, okay, I got you. Let's go to plan B for now. This is plan B. Let me work on plan A. That is, and just have a clear vision. If the problem is RF interference, for example, you isolate. Can you go hardwire for the moment being, and then sort out your problem? But you got to do it all calm. Don't show the audience that the show is in trouble. So that's what I would say, other than, yes, you got to have excellent, skills and troubleshooting. Yes, you got to have all this stuff, but, your posture, your personal posture, as far as your communication between art, not necessarily artists, but the band engineer and management coming in, and it's like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? Because they don't want to bother the engineer. They come straight to you. And if you don't give them a clear answer, they're going to go straight to the engineer, and then the engineer is going to turn back to you and be like, why did you let this happen? I'm over here paying attention to the band. Why are they talking to me? So that's just stay calm, clear vision, focus.
Definitely. I mean, that's a huge thing as well of kind of fielding those questions, doing everything around the engineer so they can just concentrate on mixing. That's like the number one thing you're doing is during the show is kind of running interference on everyone around them. So speaking of, these personal interactions, let's talk about first impressions. So Alicia Martin says, what might a tech do that's an immediate turn off? Things that make you roll your eyes or sigh in frustration, or just plain not want to work with them if you don't have to. I would also say, okay, so that's how do you make a bad first impression, but how do you make a good first impression when you're teching? And I'm not going to force everyone to answer in turn anymore. If whoever feels inspired, jump in.
Don't talk about what you did on your last tour.
That's a good one. My personal thing, it's dealing with big festivals and everything, and a lot of techs come in. It's be friendly, and respect that's their house. Yes, you are the tech for the act, but that's their house. And if you want to, if you want really for me to give you 110% and bend over backwards to make you happy, then come be like, hey man, this is what I'm carrying, this is what I'm bringing, and I want to, I would like to have this much real estate, and I will do everything in my power. If you come to me really nice, I will do everything I can to make sure that you get, you be the first one to get power. You be the first one to get real estate. But if you come here, it's like, oh, I'm here with such and such, and this is what we need, and that's it, no budging. I'm like, man, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's like, this is what you get, and this is what you get. But if you come, a little bit nicer, a good approach, humble, you're gonna get a lot more done.
Yeah, it's amazing what a simple please and thank you will get you. It goes very far. And also just that simple communication of, we're all in this together. We all do the same job, and no one is above anybody, in the tech world. And when I first meet an engineer, I just want to make sure that I approach them as, hey, I'm here to help you. What can I do for you? What do you expect from me? And make sure that I set that expectation very clear, so there's no gray area, and that the engineer knows, like, this, I'm here to support them, and they know what they can expect from me from day to day. And usually that that works out really well, because we know, like, there's a lot of times engineers have different expectations, out of their techs. They want to have different control over their day to day. So being able to know what they want to achieve, in their world, and what they expect me to do. And I don't come in going, I'll take care of this, I'll do the RF for you, I'll set your world. Sometimes they want to do that. So being able to know what they want to take control over, what they want me to take care of, there's very defined sets of expectations, and being able to respect their space, because it's all about that respect and that space with each other.
I think also we also have to be willing to learn, because I know I don't know everything, and sometimes there's oftentimes engineers teach me new things while we're out on the road. So just having that mutual respect from each other and being willing to learn from each other is a key for me on the road.
Definitely. Yeah, so first impressions, there are a lot of first impressions to make as a tech, because as we said before, you're the kind of bridge between the audio company and the engineer, who, like, the engineers usually are employed by the band, by the artist, and then everyone else, like the techs, are employed by an audio company. So you're that kind of face between the two of them. And you can be depending on your role, you might be quite involved with the band themselves, so you really have to watch how you're acting. and as Rachel said, every engineer is different. Some of them just want to walk in and push faders and do absolutely nothing else. Some of them want to do everything and control everything. So just getting to know your individual engineer that you're looking after is key. So what was I going to say? So we've got a couple of questions from people who are, relatively new, and they're a bit shy about their amount of knowledge, but there are no stupid questions here, don't worry. So we've had a couple of questions of, like, well, can someone do both front of house and monitors? Like, obviously not at the same, well, you can do it at the same time, but I mean, they're kind of wondering, are they completely different career paths? So I know you guys are all amazing all-rounders. Do you want to talk about the importance of being able to work at both ends of the multi, or of the snake, and the different skills involved for front of house and monitors?
Can I start by saying, if you can avoid taking front of house and monitors at the same time, do it. just avoid it altogether.
The reality is, it happens. Okay, so
I know. The last trip I did with Carrie, we were in South Africa with with Eddie. I was taking both, and it was quite challenging, let me tell you. It's a whole different set of skills. It's somewhat related, but it's just a different focus. In my opinion, is if you're on the stage, there's two things to keep in mind. One is quick in, quick out. because the more comfortable you get on the stage, the harder it's going to be on the out. And sometimes you're not on the headlining spot. Sometimes you're on the direct support. Sometimes you're just a fly-in date right in between everything. And don't make a mess. That's for the stage. As far as front of house goes, try to minimize your footprint. That will be as a tech. The engineers sometimes they want a lot, and obviously you're their tech. You're gonna give him a lot, but you gotta be able to mediate with the engineer directly. It's like, hey, can we lose a rack today, or can we condense this to a point that is just minimal? You're gonna have a good time because you're gonna be comfortable. It's gonna be a quicker out for me because all I gotta do is flip a console, one rack, get the multi out. So that's just my point of view. If you were to do both, if you're specializing on front of house or monitors, there's a whole, it's a whole different set of vision. But if you're doing the one tech for both, it's try to minimize. minimize.
I would just quickly add to that because including if you're stage teching as well, label everything to within an inch of its life. The idea is if you die in the middle of the show, someone should be able to step in and continue your work. So don't keep any information in your head, put it out there, keep it clean. And when something goes wrong, you're going to thank yourself that everything is clearly labeled because you will not remember in the moment what goes where. Just make it easy on yourself and make everything neat and tidy.
Yeah, being single tech on a like a one bus tour is it's rough, it's demanding, but sometimes it can be an extraordinary experience. One of my last tours that I did was absolutely fantastic, and it was rough, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. So yeah, if you can do it. A lot of times in that situation, the engineers will be doing a little bit of it themselves, even if they just tip the console. Great, perfect. At least I don't have to run out there while I'm trying to clean up stage, get the console before somebody spills a beer on it.
I'd say it's really just important to know the roles that are required for the tool. So say you're on like a 5-man crew and we have a stage tech, we have a monitor tech, we have some PA techs, and then we have a front of house tech. As the system front of house tech, I need to know what everybody's doing so that if something happens, I can step in and help, or I might have to take over. So as you're coming up in the ranks, like learn how to be a good patch person. Learn how to communicate with the engineer if you have to change something in the patch so that they're aware, both of them. Also learn how to apply the PA. I mean, the more you know how to do, the more opportunities you get to get out there.
I do feel there is a bit of an atmosphere difference between front of house and monitors. I think there's, certain personalities, certain type of coffee drinkers like to go out front of house, I found. And maybe the monitor end is a little bit more kind of getting their hands dirty, but that's kind of stereotyping. But yeah, I wouldn't worry about if you're starting out trying to like pigeonhole yourself into one role and just going for that. You have plenty of time to kind of find your niche, but it's always useful to kind of know a bit of everything and to keep your options open. And so similarly, Kiva was saying that sorry, I'm trying to look at this on my phone. It's like, where's the questions gone? Kiva O'Shea wants to know, what is your worst advice to someone at entry/mid-level in the live sound industry? Let's talk about teching in specific. I think she's kind of saying for people who are kind of plateauing, kind of a little bit stuck, and they want to make that next step onto bigger shows. What's the worst advice you've heard? Or the best, if you want to be a bit more positive about it.
Well, certainly don't quit your day job until you got the big job.
I would like to add, that if you're going to step into the bigger leagues, as far as getting a bigger tech job for a bigger production, know your power. Really, really know your power, because that's when please know your power. If you're going to step to the next one, just know power, how to fix it, what's wrong, what to look for, etc., etc. And the reason being, sorry, Rachel, is what is the worst advice that you can, that you've been given? It's like, oh, just plug that in, and then you end up frying half of the rig because you didn't know power.
I have to second that, what Ivan said. I mean, power it's so important, and I feel so misunderstood at times. And even me, when I started out, it was probably a weak spot for me. And as you grow and you learn, and I feel like it's okay to admit where your weak spots are, because that's how you learn and you grow. And yeah, power it's everything in this job. And if you know how to troubleshoot it properly, and what you're up against, that can make or break your day. And that can take a decent day to a bad day real fast. Real fast.
I think that's the sound of a generator dying is one of the worst feelings of like, oh my God. So especially for festivals, if you guys are kind of traveling into festivals, don't just, as Ivan said, don't just take someone's word for it that you're okay to plug in somewhere. Like, really think about what you're doing. If you're not sure about something, it's always better to ask 10 times and get it right, rather than just kind of have a go at it. Because I'm going to say I know from experience, like I did it, but I was present when a few times where everything's fine during the day, even fine during sound check. But once the subs kick in, they just take up so much extra power that if you don't have everything set up properly, that will just kill everything right at the drop, right in the middle of the show. And that is the biggest thing you want to avoid. And, as Ivan says, power, a lot of people kind of think it's not part of audio, it's not our job, it's not our responsibility, but it totally is. Like, the buck stops with you when you're the tech. You have to take responsibility for everything, and don't just close your eyes to things, because that's going to cause you a world of pain.
Yeah, and earning the nickname of Sparky is no fun on this industry.
So do you guys want to talk about kind of the personal relationships that you guys have with the engineers you work with most, like what you like best about your relationships, or what you would have done differently, maybe if you could start again? Anyone?
All right, I'll start. The engineer that got me in with the Who many years ago, 2007, has become basically a best friend. He flew in from London to come to my wedding, and if I ever get a chance again, he'll be the first stop on the way back. So, real good friendships can come about this if you get along well enough. And of course, there's also been other ones where myself and the engineer didn't get along at all. So you're going to meet that no matter what industry you get into. You're always going to have somebody you're not going to get along with, and some people who you are just going to absolutely adore. If you get into a situation where you're with somebody who you can't get along with, do your best to just keep calm and get through it, because the next tour will be completely different.
I will add to that. It's there's times that you just, first of all, you got to remember you're hired for a job. You're doing a job. Your connection to the engineer is how well you can get in sync with this, with said engineer, and how much you guys can start relying on each other. Now, you're gonna run into an engineer, a couple engineers that they woke up on the wrong side of the bed that morning. So this is where you got to be able to, take a quick step back and tell yourself, okay, we're still going to be buddies further down the road, but today I need to really step it up. I need to prove this engineer that even though today is not a good day for him or her, it's gonna be better because I'm gonna make it better. You know, and that you know, it doesn't matter if the person it's a total nightmare. When they see that coming from you, you might change their view towards you. You know, and yeah, I have a joke that says, you know, it's like, hey, you know, teching for monitors is 80% psychology, 20% knowledge. And the reason is it's more 100% knowledge, you know, but the 80% psychology is about how to read people. You know, if you're traveling, you know, with a 7-person crew and you're the monitor tech and you see the PA falling behind this morning, are you going to be the guy that is going to be pointing your finger at them? No, you should be the guy to be like, hey man, can I route power for you? Can I get the cross stage going? Can I do this for you? It's like, you guys your points are not even up. It's okay. Let me get power going for you. I'm going to, then I'll build monitor world on the dock and then we'll roll in. You know, don't be like that person that is going to go like, you guys are not doing your job today. It's like, now you're not helping. So, you know, but when it comes to building the chemistry with an engineer directly, you got to know what that, you know, some people are very different when they're at the job site versus when they are at home. There's two different things, you know. It's like when I'm at a job site, it's all about electronics. You bring it on. When I'm at home, it's all analog brewing. You know, it's there's no digital. So find that common ground of what, you know, what the engineer likes on, you know, on when they're the days off. Do they go bowling? It's like, if they go bowling, it's like, well, okay, you know, that person likes to do, you know, okay, have a good time, a little physical action. Okay, so, you know, maybe the engineer might be down to help you, you know, move a rack or two, because you know, they're down to do some physical action. If the engineer on the day off, all they do is, you know, just chill and relax, don't expect them, you know, to be pulling a snake with you. It's just and that's one pointer of how to relate to different things and how they can become one. You know, that's just my personal experience.
Yeah.
Go on.
I've been sorry, Beth. You know, I've been really lucky to form some really great relationships and bonds with some of the engineers that I've worked with over the last few years, and you know, a few that I consider really close personal friends, and you know, have been, you know, a few. The last engineer that I've worked with, my husband actually teched for him before I did, and so you know, he's, you know, somebody who's, you know, really close, you know, with our family, and you know, so being able to, you know, have that bond, and you know, we have that connection, and you know, the engineer I worked before that, you know, I worked with them on a couple different tours, so you know, there is that history there, you know, that you're able to connect with them, you know, and other tours, you know, it's somebody that maybe I've never worked with before, or, you know, don't have that connection with immediately, but you know, you find that common ground, you find, you know, where you're able to connect. And if maybe you don't necessarily mesh, you know, the way, you know, I don't expect to be best friends with every, you know, everybody that I work with, but I want to be able to, you know, be professional and have that common ground and be able to get the job done, because that's what, you know, that what we're there for. And you know, like, to reiterate what people have said, you know, not every day is going to be a great day, but to be able to look past that and know, like, you know, I've got to be able to do this job, you know, regardless of if I'm having a bad day, if they're having a bad day, you know, we've got to work together. And if we can get past that, tomorrow can be a better day. And I think that can be really hard to see sometimes, you know, because nobody is perfect in this. So being able to kind of push through that and learn from, you know, from each other, and that is always that interesting kind of balance that you work through this job.
I'd also like to say that one thing that we as techs sometimes forget is that we're in the business of service. We are there to provide a service to an engineer, to an artist. And sometimes when you're a servant, there's lots of things that you may or may not want to or like to do, but it's still your responsibility to serve the people that you were put in place to serve.
With a smile.
With a smile.
Just something that Ivan said of, different engineers might like to get involved, or they might not. But I think it's really important, and I've seen it before, of like, if you have a helpful engineer, they are doing that every day because they choose to. That's not actually part of their job, and you should never get to a point where you just presume they're going to do it, because it's still, if they come and give you a hand, great. If they want to, I don't know, set up their racks in a certain way, that's fine. But you should always be the first one making the move to do that work. You don't. I've seen a couple of times. I've seen techs stood chatting to someone else while their engineers are doing the work, and it's like, oh man, like never not be doing work when your engineer is working is a good way to get on with them, I think. So we got a couple of questions in the chat, and someone says, from what's some of the best tricks or tips you've been given from other engineers that you continue to use to this day in your workflow? So again, not necessarily about mixing, but anything good about setting up, little tricks to increase productivity.
One trick, I don't know if I'd call it a trick, but some advice I got early on was pay attention to what your monitor or front of house engineer is doing, because there's going to come a point where you're going to have to step in, and it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. I was on a tour a couple of years ago, and my front of house engineer, his mother passed. So I ended up having to mix 10 of the shows so that he could go deal with, his family. And the reason why I was there to do it was because he was like, this is my tech. She knows the show. She's been here. We've worked through everything, and it would just be smarter for her to do it than try and get somebody else in here. So pay attention to what's going on during the show. Pay attention to how they like to set things up and when they're using different things, so that you can replicate, so that the show maintains its consistency.
I'll second that. I actually, when earlier in my career, I found actually quite fun learning the cues. That was part of, it's like, because I was focused on, okay, setting this up, okay, and I was always keeping my eye out on stage and whatnot. But when I could relax a little bit, I would sit behind the engineer, just learn the cues. What is the engineer doing? It's like, okay. And believe it or not, those little learning that helped me when I became an actual mixing engineer, to know like, oh, actually the mixing engineer, there's cues, and he's looking for those cues, or she's looking for this cues. It's like, I should be looking for this cues too. Like, before the band even, suggest anything, the engineer knew it. And I was like, okay. And that I learned by watching that, the engineers do their job. I'm like, okay, so there's a lot to be learned from an engineer. And like I said, if you have time off, don't be in catering, just be behind the engineer, see what they're doing, because you will learn a lot.
And don't be afraid to ask them either. I mean, people like to brag about themselves. So don't be afraid to ask them questions about what they're doing in the right time and place, but most times they're willing to share.
Yeah, another, you can't shut them up.
Right. Another thing I've learned is read their body language. I was always able to tell when my engineer was getting stressed out, and I would just run off and go get an espresso and bring it back for him. At the time he quit drinking, so I would come back with an espresso, and immediately it was like, oh, okay, step back.
Yeah, coffee is always a good bet, I think, if to smooth things over. Try
tea as well.
Tea, yeah, well.
Yeah, front of house like tea.
So again, similarly, someone said, do you have preset files for different boards that you make your setup of the mix to make the setup of your mixer easier or quicker, or is every show does every show come factory or is every show a factory reset and start from scratch type of deal? If anyone wants to jump in.
If this is a tour that you're on, I know start from scratch. If you're talking about jumping into a festival, I would have something pre-planned. because most of the time you won't have enough time to build something from scratch. But your own tour, if you have time, build something at home. But after talking to engineers what they need, start there. Don't expect that the last thing that you did is going to fit in any way, shape, or form with the next band.
Yeah, I will add, when it comes to actual teching, for the engineer to trust you with their files, you got to earn that trust. You have to earn that trust. I personally like to have copies of the files. And if it's at the end of the tour or something, I'll be like, I hand them the USB stick, or, hand him or her the USB stick back and be like, here's your show files. I don't need them. I just want to have a copy for me, just in case. We got different flights. We got different schedules. We got different buses. What if I get there first? I want to make sure that your file loads. I want to make sure that I'm not messing with it. I just want to have that file to be able that when my engineer comes in, it's good to go. But you got to earn that trust. And that's something that you have to, you got to emphasize. It's like, they got to trust you. They got to trust you. They got to trust you. You get to a point also that engineers, like, they call you, 3 years down the road. Hey, you still have that file from that show? I'm like, yeah, it's sitting on the cloud. It's like, can you send it to me? I want to revisit this. I'm like, sure. I'm not even working for you anymore, but sure, here you go. I'll email it to you. Like, great.
I would say some engineers will never ever share their file, which is that's just how they roll. It's I found it's quite common in pop, where perhaps people are fired quite suddenly sometimes. So I know a few people who every time they leave the desk, basically they wipe the desk. They don't leave their show file on there, because if they get fired, that show file's going with them. And so, some people are just like that. Don't take it personally if they're not going to share your file with their file with you. But then other people, will give you 3 different copies of it and go, hey, take it, do what you want with it, have some fun. Here's the multi-tracks. Like, it really depends. But yeah, so I would say most people, well, the ideal these days for a tour is you have plenty of time to rehearse. You get your show file all nice and perfect, and different scenes for every song, all that kind of stuff. But then you keep that file day to day. Like, you only tweak it slightly depending on the room that you're in that day. It's not kind of you're not starting with a rough mix and going every single day. Like at this stage with virtual sound checks and stuff, loads of bands don't even sound check, or only the band sound check and not the front person. So you are relying quite heavily on things that you've already set up. What else? There's a lot of questions just of like, how do you get started? How do you get a foot in the door for any kind of work?
Coiling cables.
Well, yeah. Local
Coiling
club.
cables well.
Yeah, literally start at your local club if they need help.
I mean, it's, the question is also based, they're asking, I'm pretty sure, we have decades of experience over here, and we all started at the bottom. There's no easy way. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be a monitor tech. It just doesn't work that way. There's a lot to be learned. There's a lot to be retained while you're learning at the same time. Because you can't forget, those little things, because even as you climb up, in the industry, the troubles are still the same. So sometimes you just got, and there's going to be also a rookie coming in that you're going to be that person telling the rookie, hey, that's pin too open. That's why you're not getting that. They're like, what? Like, yes, that's why you're not getting that microphone. It's pin too open. Oh, okay. What does that mean? So, I mean, you got to start from the very, very bottom. You got to be patient. Do not work for free. That's a piece of advice. Do not work for free. You don't have to work for free. You deserve to be paid. Big advocate on that. I'm sorry. It's just and to get the foot in the door, I mean, during this time, it's a little hard. Trevor said it right. Local club is a good opening door. That is always a great opening door, because some of those guys that are or ladies that are mixing at the clubs, also work for sound companies locally. And next time it's like, oh, we need an A3. It's like, oh, I know a person is, just started at the club. It'll be great for this one show this weekend. And that's how you got your first foot on the door. You do that really good job. From that point on, it's gonna be phone calls coming in and out. But you gotta pay. You gotta pay your dues. And I'm not saying that you're paying your dues for free. You're gonna get paid, and please ask to get paid. I'm sorry. It's just I cannot stand when people is like, oh yeah, come here, let's just tag along. It's like that person is giving you their time. It's valuable. It's valuable. You gotta get paid.
I would say that so a lot of people are kind of like trying to get their foot in the door with touring. Unfortunately, if it's not even if you want to work for free on a tour, because you being there costs them money, because you're taking up a space in the bus, you're taking up food and hotels on days off and stuff. You really need to hone your skills locally and get a reputation for being good at what you do. And if you choose a role, or well, be an all-rounder, but choose a department like audio, get really good at that, and you will get a reputation, and eventually you will you'll find your break and you'll get on tour. The worst thing you can do is go on forums and say, hey, how'd you get on tour? Okay, what role do you want to do? I don't mind. It's like, well, if you touring is not a job. You do a job while on tour, so find something you love, whether you're doing it at home or in a freezing muddy field or halfway around the world, and then that's going to take you places rather than just wanting the glamour side of it, because no one's interested in carrying people who aren't interested in actually doing the work. What do you guys think about formal education? Because I think it's a little bit different in the States than here. Like having degrees in audio is still relatively recent thing. Anyone with opinions? And
You go, Trevor. Please, Trevor, go.
Oh yeah, you're gonna throw me under that bus, are you? It's hit or miss. I've seen some people graduate from certain schools who are absolutely useless, and others that are absolutely brilliant. I didn't go to school for it. I learned the hard way, did it wrong a lot of times, and then said, oh, maybe I should do it the other way then. So it's a tough call. School can only teach you so much. Somebody once told me you can't stack in a truck because that's not how they taught me how to do it. Ooh, you tell the production manager that. So hit or miss.
I went to audio school, so
no offense.
No. I was doing audio before, so but I went to school. I had a good experience. I'm not gonna, it was a pretty good experience. It helped, but it wasn't there's a lot to be learned on the job. It's a good on-ramp into what you're walking into. You go to school, you get to put your hands on very expensive equipment that you regularly wouldn't touch. So it's really good experience when it comes to that. But not until you get to the real world and apply what those tools are used for is when you're actually going to learn, the value of having X, Y, Z. And yeah, I mean, it's I'm not pro or con. Like I said, I come from audio school, so yeah.
I think it's what you do with your education afterwards, is where the benefit or the importance comes from it. I went to audio, to school for audio, and I learned a tremendous amount there, but my education didn't stop once I got my diploma. There's a lot that I use in my day-to-day job that I didn't learn at school. I learn on the job. I learn from asking questions of engineers and other techs and just getting my hands on gear in the work and educating myself and trying to learn outside of the classroom. I think, the education that I got in college was incredibly beneficial, and it was the right path for me. And I can't say that every single person should go, to the university that I did, because it's not going to be the right path for somebody. Learning on the job and not going to school might be the right path for somebody else. I think it's a very personal choice, and I can't say that what was right for me is right for somebody else, but I think it is a very viable option, for people if that's what they want to do. And it's what you take from it and what you continue to grow afterwards is where it is the most benefit.
Yeah, I think it's a completely individualized case-by-case basis. I mean, for one reason, not everybody can afford to go to school. So you just want to be able to get your hands on the equipment and just become familiar and more comfortable with the tools that you need to do in your job to even get started. And then once you're there, you don't stop learning. Like whenever there's a new update to a console, I have to do some reading and see what the new features and tricks and all that are, so that when an engineer asks me, I can give them an intelligent answer on what I think, whether I like it or not, if they ask, or any number of things. So I did go to audio school because I was switching careers, and I felt like that was the best way for me to learn the basics, get a good foundation so that I could use those tools to get a good job.
Nice. I didn't, but while I was at university, I joined a club where we ran all the entertainments for our university. So I kind of had that hands-on experience, and it was kind of do as much as you want kind of thing. So I didn't have the pressure of trying to impress the boss straight away. I could make a lot of mistakes, so that was quite nice. And I think a big a really great way to learn is to work in a terrible club with awful equipment. Because well, not a great club, but with awful equipment. Because and when you see some young people who start off going, and they come straight out of high school straight into big audio companies, and they work with the best gear in the world, and it's all great and it's all well maintained and well prepped. They're really clever and they can do lots of fancy things, but they're not used to things that are just broken because they're dirty or haven't been looked at in 3 years. And I find, for me at least, it really helped my problem solving ability to have endless problems to solve. So if you are struggling in a club and thinking, God, why is everything going wrong, it's a great learning opportunity.
I'll second that. I was lifting 850s into scaffold towers with Crown Macrotechs, and then I went to audio school. And I'm like, wow, this is a nice speaker, and it actually works. Like all these speakers work. I don't have to bang him. I don't have to do anything to it. And then after that, going to Rat, I was like, wow, like seeing the mom and pop company to school to a proper audio company. You're like, okay, so this is how this works. But yeah, so you'll be surprised how strong you are until an 850 catches on fire and you're picking it up and tossing it on the ground to put a fire out. It's awesome.
Also, if you've got an audio shop in your area, you can always contact them and see if you can just go and have a look around and talk to people there. It doesn't have to lead to work or anything, but it's really eye-opening to see how the bigger companies operate and how just how huge things are. And I think the first time I went to like a major company, because I went to do work experience, and I didn't know that sound desks arrive in cardboard boxes. When I saw that, I just couldn't stop laughing, because it's like, what? So yeah, just things like that you might never see if you're at a smaller level, but it's really useful to go and talk to the people there and talk to the people who work in the shop full time, because it's not all about being on site. There's some really talented and knowledgeable people who are working in the shops if you're nearby one and can make those connections.
Churches are also another good place to learn how to use audio, even lighting. They need it all, they use it all. And some churches have more money, so they have very nice equipment, and some churches are still in process, and they're working on less complicated systems. But all in all, they've got microphones, they've got cables, there's signal flowing, and you can learn a lot.
Definitely. I think in England, you get this, like, if someone says they work in a church, you get this idea of like a tiny village hall kind of thing with like, one guy and a guitar maybe. But when if anyone's not from the States and they don't know what a church looks like, some of those Sunday services are stadium level, full on shows. They are huge. They are amazing. And if people come from a church background, they know their stuff. It is unreal. But yeah, so everyone has to start somewhere. There are lots of different paths into the industry. I had a couple of people ask, like, how do on a similar vein, how do you kind of get to know people in a new city? So someone's just moved to LA. So if anyone has any recommendations of how they can network in LA or any other major city, what's the best way to go about it?
6 feet apart.
Yeah. Okay, safely.
Sorry, I had to say it. All right, personal experience, island boy here. So moving to the States, it was hard. It was hard, but it's the way that I got to network. I'm trying to think, like I just threw myself out there, and pretty much it was like, if you have work, it's like, I'm available. I don't care what it is. I don't care. Like sweeping, I don't care. I'm doing it. And that's how you get to know people too. They're like, oh, what's this kid over here? And they're like, hi, my name is Ivan. And it's like, oh, come on, let's have a beer. It's like, I'm not old enough. They're like, well, I can sit right there though and listen to your stories. You just gotta get out there. Then the current times is a little bit harder. Trying to make a connection at a show, I would not advise that. Everybody's got their focus on at that point. They got their game face on, and they got there for a goal, get the show on, show happening. So that's not the best time to approach a person. If you see them lounging around, then it's a whole different story. They're like, hey, what do you do? I'm interested, it's like, I'm aspiring, do you have a business card, and then, but that at that specific moment might not be the time to to talk about your opportunity. It might be like, hey, can you shoot me an email? I want your contact, and then when you have a time, I would like to talk to you. Be patient about it, and let that's just the best I can say. Like how I will go approaching to get more opportunities.
I don't think there's really any specific way to make your way in. It's kind of, you've got to be creative. If you know one person, ask them to introduce you to another person, and then just try and build from there. So it's, again, case by case. Maybe you, like Beth said, if you live near a sound company, one day ask if you can come in from a tour and talk to the people that are in the shop. All kinds of different scenarios like that.
God, I was going to say something, is completely gone.
6 feet apart.
6 feet apart. Yeah, I mean, I would say, just from a personal point of view, don't contact other freelancers in the middle of pandemic and ask them to go on tour, especially not when the entire nation is in lockdown and no one's leaving their house. There are no tours to go on. I'm sorry. So that's just from personal experience. It's not even just, there aren't the opportunities. It's quite tone deaf. Like, people are struggling, and to then kind of, contact people, say, hey, we've got some downtime. I'd like to get to know you. Or, I know there's not much going on now, but in the future, just like, keep me in mind. That's fine. But like, some people over the last year, it's like, have you looked outside? Like, why are you asking about work? Like, really? I I would say as well, you know, a couple of the questions I've said about like where are good online forums. I would say definitely Soundgirls is maybe the only online forum I'm still a part of, because the rest are just pits of negativity and really not that helpful. But you know, if you guys have any recommendations for, I guess, US based ones, because I'm not on any of them. Bobnet.
Stay away from Reddit. Hey, it's advice, right? Shit advice.
It is,
so.
yeah, it's good advice. Bobnet can be okay. There's a few negativity ones out there, but there's some people that are looking for things. While we have the time, just keep going to all the manufacturers, because they're all still putting out. Digico just put out another new console, so we're constantly doing things online to promote all that stuff, and it's a good time to learn. We've got a lot of training videos on our website, so it'll also help with since we haven't seen consoles in a while, you can refresh yourself. So it just keep doing training, I guess, online. There's a lot of it, and many manufacturers.
There's one thing I did find that I do it, and this is just I find it fun. I read white papers on equipment. Some people are like, but you know,
it is a bit nerdy.
Sorry, thank you. I mean, now, it's just, you learn a lot. You know, it's like sometimes you find stuff that consoles are able, they were designed to do that you don't even bother, because it's not on your immediate scope of what you're trying to get done. You're like, what? You can bring that in? And only by reading the white paper, you're like, oh, a console was designed to do that. Interesting. Didn't know. So same thing with amplifiers, and I just like reading. I like reading white papers. See, I mean, there's an engineer out there that took their time to write those things to make sure that we knew how to use them. Just, we got to do it.
Yeah, so we had another question of what are your recommendations for resources about IEMs and RF stuff? I would personally say, sure, do webinars and have all sorts of videos and stuff. And I just really like the way the guys from Shure talk and teach. But, you know, as you guys were saying, basically anything you're interested in, sign up to the manufacturers' mailing lists, because they're doing stuff all the time. There's webinars, there's videos, there's, in better times, there might be in-person training. So just keep yourself in the loop with all of that stuff. And it's, nearly all of it is free. Like there is so much, so much good knowledge out there that people are just handing to you on a plate. And, make the most of your time at home at the moment and just learn it all, soak it up like a sponge.
Yeah. I want to add to that, it's like, it's funny because I've been dealing with Dante for years. I've been dealing with Waves for years. Last year was actually like I certified because I had time to do it.
Me too. I did mine too.
I've been dealing with it for many years, and I was actually took the time and be like, oh yeah, that's how you do that. Oh yeah, it's like, certified 1, certified 2. I'm like, that was easy. But take the time. Now that we have the time, just do it. It's just a refresher for you. On top of that, if we are that far away from gear, not dealing as intensive with the gear as we were on a daily basis, it's a good refresher. Just like to remember, like, oh yeah, that's right. That happened to me before, and it's a good practice.
I would also say manufacturer training is a great way to network as well, because you've got lots of people in the class in kind of the same boat as you, and a lot of them are, a lot of the training in real life, when it's safe, is held at audio companies. So you can kind of have a sneaky peek around. Well, don't just go wandering around audio companies, but you know what I mean? Like you can be in the area, you can kind of get chatting to people. And also the last thing I want to say about networking is I cannot remember, Carrie's going to remind me, but there's on the Sound Girls newsletter, which everyone should be signed up to. If you're not signed up to it, it's got lots of great resources. Recently there's been one about there's a blog from a guy, and I cannot remember his name, but it's called Nobody Likes Networking. And I agree with everything he says on it, because it's all about networking is not actually brown nosing. It's not this kind of fake, you know, how can I get work, blah, blah. It's the people I've seen who are best at networking are genuinely happy to see people who, you know, they see them as their friends. They ask them questions about their personal lives because they're actually interested, not because they're trying to get something out of it. So he's, whatever his name is, if you Google Nobody Likes Networking, you'll find it. But that's a great resource as well. And again, so coming back to the kind of the personal side of things, someone has just said, how can you handle difficult situations in the field? For example, you know, sexist workmates or problems with teamwork, you know, apart from giving everyone coffee, what would you say is, you know, a good way to deal with it?
I'll say speak up. Don't stay quiet. You know, it's a we all got to be professionals. We all got to be understanding. Everybody's got different needs. And I don't think that a culture of hush hush is not a culture that should be accepted at any level at all. And that goes for, you know, for men and lady, doesn't matter. It's speak up. Just like, and at the same time, wrap up the courage to say, don't like that. Say it. Don't like that. Period. I mean, that's just me. A couple of years back, you know, had an experience that I was the crew chief, and one of my A2s, I had a great team of A2s on my stage, and one of the stations was not, you know, was being disrespectful. And so I went to the stage manager. You know, my A2 comes to me and tells me, hey, this is what's going on. I was like, okay, stay in patch world, let me handle this. But she spoke up, you know, and I went straight to the stage manager. Stage manager is like, oh, you know, they're being, I was like, I went straight to the production manager, and the production manager comes to me and like, what's going on? And I was like, exactly, I want to know what's going on. It's like, well, I haven't heard the whole story. I was like, I'm going to trust my A2. If my A2 tells me that this is not a safe environment, it's not a safe environment. I'm sorry. So we got to the bottom of it. But the thing is, I was proud that she spoke up. And that's the message I want to share. You know, it's like, if something is not safe, you don't feel safe, speak up. Either speak up to the person directly, or go to your supervisor and tell them this is what's going on. It shouldn't be a hush hush situation. There's the right way to do things, and there's the right way to do things. There's no, you know, there's no deviation from it. We're gonna do it right. And I think that's as a culture and as a industry, we have to. And our points as crew chiefs, you know, and most of us that we had the experience, we have to support that 110%. You know, we got to be completely neutral and clear about the situations and providing a safe working environment for everybody that is under our crew.
Yeah, so I mean, this is really where teamwork comes into it as well, of like, you know, having a team that you know you can rely on and you know has your back makes everything so much easier, and it makes it, you know, you feel more empowered to come forward and talk about things. Or you know, if you're on tour and you're getting on with someone for 3 weeks and then suddenly you're, you know, everything's gone down the drain, you can kind of go, hey, are you okay? Like, there's probably something wrong that day that you got to get to the bottom of, and you can trust someone enough to actually talk to them about it. Whereas, you know, if you're not really gelling as a team from the outset, then when things do go wrong, it's, you got nowhere to go but down. But I think it's I would say, if you're having problems, especially with the sexism thing, I find, pick your time, not, not when tensions are running high, but kind of take the person aside directly if there's someone you can talk to. Like if it's, maybe if it's the star, you can't really take them aside and have a talk with them. But if it's a colleague, just say, look, what's going on? Because sometimes it really is just miscommunication and misunderstanding, and just a quiet talk to them will kind of nip it in the bud rather than kind of escalating it straight to, a few levels up, and then it becomes a big deal where, never stay quiet, but the first protocol should be the person who you have an issue with, and just have an honest conversation with them. And then if that doesn't solve the problem, then, bring it up the chain and kind of talk to your boss, talk to your head of department. If you can't talk to your head of department, talk to someone you trust. But remaining calm, as everyone said, remaining calm in tough situations is a huge bonus. Yeah, so I think definitely don't bottle it up and stew in your own frustration. Talk to somebody about it. If you can't talk to the person, talk to someone you trust about it, and sort it out as quickly as possible. Is there anyone else want to talk about like how they kind of diffuse any difficult situations? Maybe, egos running high at festivals, or any, you don't need to name names, but any difficult situations that you learned from.
I started a tour with just two of us as PA techs, kind of being only providing the PA. Another sound company was providing consoles and monitors, and the production manager was difficult to get along with, and my partner was catching the brunt of it. And at one point, I went up to the production manager. I said, "What's wrong? Why are you giving the stage right such a hard time?" And he couldn't come up with a legitimate excuse. He just started yelling at me instead. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is how it's going to go. So I called my boss, and I said, we might need to be replaced. Just be aware, there's something not right with this. Neither one of us are comfortable being here, but we'll try to work through it. But right now, he's screaming at us, and you should know about it. After a couple of days, apparently, and a lot of video people quitting the tour because of the same thing, we just kind of learned this is how he is. He's hired a lot of people who are very good around him because he wasn't so good, and he dealt with it by just screaming at people. After a few shows, we were just like, all right, we'll just get through this and not go on that tour again.
I'd say when I've had some difficult situations, be it with an engineer or some of the other touring crew, the audio team usually gels together and we support one another. There's been instances where usually I'm the crew chief on tour, and maybe like the union steward or somebody local is pretty disrespectful to me because they don't think that maybe I should be in charge or that I don't know what I'm talking about. And I've had my other teammates step to that person in my defense. So one thing that I like to instill when we're gone, like the people that are on the road with us that travel from city to city, that's my family while I'm gone. So we try to maintain familial relationships and be supportive of one another so that if there is a problem, someone feels comfortable coming to me to talk about it, and then I can take it to the next level. If need be. I had a young lady on tour who was having problems with a stagehand. He was completely disrespectful to her. I didn't know about it till the end of the night, but as soon as I found out, I went to my production manager. And my production manager called in the union steward and they handled it, and that guy got fired because it was not the first time that it happened. So, sometimes we have to say something just so it can be handled for the future.
Very true. And yeah, as I say, the trust that you have between your colleagues really can make a break a show. Like, I don't know if you guys have, I'm sure some of the toughest jobs I've had, if I've had colleagues that I get along with, it's fine, we can get through it. And then there have been some jobs which have actually been really easy and really cushy, and I've hated every minute because other people make the show. So back to a bit more of a techie question. What is everyone's favorite desk to tech, or what brand? I think there might be one or two Digicos in there.
Trevor, you got to be neutral.
Yeah, no comment.
You love them all equally.
I've been teching a pair of Midas XL4s for the last 3 or 4 years, so it's been that's been fun trying to keep those alive on tour. But it's been fun to at least be on an analog desk for a while, and getting your hands dirty on that, because I feel like I see more of them coming through our shop. They become a little bit more prevalent. Especially on some of the country tours, we see them a lot. But I know a few other of the tours have them, but it's kind of fun just trying to be on analog again, and with the power supplies, keeping a few spares, keeping the modules around, be like, oh, this went bad, all right, turn it off, replace this out. So it's a love-hate relationship I have with those consoles for sure.
Please tell me they're not the automated DCA section.
What's that?
Is it the automated DCA on the XL4?
Yeah, yeah. But
And that battery's got to be replaced every 2 years. Just saying.
yeah, I know. Trust me, I know.
Oh, I know the pain. I mean, I love teching analog. It's just, it takes me back to, to the very beginning, which, and I have fun with analog. It's just, if I have to choose Digico to start, follow second by, I mean, Midas was my second favorite, but now I have to give it to the Rivage series of Yamaha. And it's just, first of, and Avid comes third. And the reason is I'm looking at the console actually by 1, reliability, 2, ease of fix, and 3, sound quality. That's what I'm pretty much, if I'm gonna take this console every day, I gotta be able to rely on this console. And if I gotta do a little bit of repair, I know I can get a repair, in less than 2 hours. I don't want to be having to overnight a console from XYZ company to intercept into the next venue because the console is not firing up. I'm sorry. If your console does that, then I'm not going to rely much on it. Hope that answers the question. I mean, so analog, digital.
I too would say I probably would go with Digico. I use them the most. And just to be clear, as a system tech engineer, I don't get to pick the consoles. I just have to know how to fix them. So whatever the engineer brings on the road, I have to know how to fix it.
Yeah, no, you totally don't get to choose, unfortunately. Just talking about analog, like I worked in a venue where we didn't go digital until like 2016, so we got so much hassle. We were at like a club venue, 900 capacity or something, so most people weren't touring their own desks in, and we got so much hassle for having analog. Everybody hated it, trying to do £5 bills on it, analog each end. And then we got VI6s each end, and I was really excited to tell all the engineers who had come before and bitched at me all day. I'm like, yeah, we got digital now. And everyone was just like, oh man, I really love analog actually. Like, do you guys not have the Series 5 still? And like, suddenly just the trend flipped and everyone had this nostalgia for analog just after we got rid of them. And it's just like, we have been trying for years, and now everyone, well, or people bring their own like teeny weeny like GLD 80 or something, and then see me with my Series 5 doing the support bands and be like, oh, I want to mix on that. And it's like, well, you can. Here you go. Nah, it's okay. But if you are, I've seen a couple of comments in the comment section that people have experience on analog, and I think that's super useful to start off on analog. You know the signal path really well, and it's, you know, you kind of, digital can be a little bit intimidating, but if you've got the fundamentals on analog, you can kind of translate that into any other desk, because you can see, well, this is where this goes, this is where this goes. Okay, well, there's a screen there as well, but who cares? So it's all good experience. I feel I have dominated your time quite a lot. You guys exhausted from all this talk?
No.
Is there anything you wish someone starting to tech when it's safe after the pandemic knew, or what do you wish you knew when you started? And maybe we can like wrap up on a fun
All right.
nostalgic note.
I'll go first. I would like for the future tech that I will see to have a IT hat, an RF hat, a stage manager hat, and also a barista hat. Then we're good.
Okay, so be everything for everyone. Easy.
Hey, you asked me what I wish, you know, so it's like I'm just raising the bar. That's all.
I'd like to say that I would wish for somebody that's willing to learn. You don't have to know everything. You have to be teachable. I don't want you coming in trying to tell me how to do my job. I want you to come in, learn how to do your job, learn how to work with other people, not just the audio crew. We have to work with the lighting team. We have to work with the video team. We have to work with everybody. So I just need somebody that's good to work with other people, and then we could teach you the rest.
So on a serious note, what Kristen said is right.
Yeah, I going back to what Ivan said way long ago, power. Know it. That's the most important thing on tour, for your protection, for protection of those around you, and the gear. Know your power.
And yeah, I would say, to kind of go piggyback off everything, just, you know, when you're coming in, realizing that you don't know everything, you know, when you start out, you're going to continue to learn, and you're there to do the job and learn from those around you, because everybody who's in this job has a wealth of knowledge. You know, nothing is secret. nothing is magic in this job. You know, there's a lot of people who are willing to teach a lot, you know, because we all learn from people, and we are willing to teach those, you know, so that we can all do the job together.
Some wise words to finish our talk today. Totally true. I mean, if the amount of times I've prayed to the Lord to send me someone who might not know very much, but is willing to learn, that is huge. Attitude is everything, especially for teching. So, you know, don't panic too much about, you know, learn as much as you can, but don't panic too much about not knowing every single thing. Being aware enough to be able to say when you need help, and to help other people, you know, even if it's not your role to jump in if you see someone having a difficult day. That's huge. So thanks everybody. We've gone way over time, so thanks for coming in. Thanks for all your questions, and thank you to my panel for imparting all your knowledge. And well, have a nice Saturday for you guys in the States. Good night for everybody here in the UK. See you next time.
It was a pleasure. Good seeing y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.